What's up, you guys? Welcome to Happy Place. So, longtime viewers of the show will know a fact about me, and that fact is that I really like soup. Soup is like one of my favorite things in the world. I'll say top 5. And so I make soup a lot, and I like to make soup for my friends. And when I make the soup for my friends, I get compliments on the soup, and that always confuses me because I don't see myself as a really good chef. Soup just happens to be phenomenally easy to make. That's one of its big benefits. Soup is one of the greatest forms of food ever invented. It is the easy, cheap way to make a lot of food in a usually healthy way. And so when I hear people saying that they don't know how to cook or that they can't make soup, it drives me crazy because soup is genuinely difficult to screw up. And so today I thought that for those of you who think that you don't know how to make soup, you do know how to make soup and you can make soup. And today I'm going to teach you how to do that. And I'm going to do it on a budget, because I am on a budget. My personal favorite soup is chicken soup. Chicken soup I could eat every night for the rest of my life and it would be just fine. I love chicken soup. When people talk about their base food, the thing that they like the most, if they could just be eating one thing for the rest of their life, chicken soup is my food. And I've been told that I make a pretty mean chicken soup, but it's not that hard to make. Anyone can do it, and that's why I'm making this video today, to prove that to you guys. So I'm going to show you guys some ingredients right now that I intend on putting in my chicken soup, but the thing you need to understand is that I took this recipe, I say recipe because I modified it from my mother, and I expect you guys to modify this recipe on your own. Chicken soup is very malleable. There's certain things that I would say are maybe the core elements, chicken being one of them, but other than that, you can kind of throw a lot of stuff in there, take some stuff out. You kind of want to have some core certain ingredients, but go wild. That's like the beauty of soup. You can just put anything in it. So the first ingredient that I'm going to show you is onions. There's a pack of onions. It cost me like $1.50 for all of these. We're not going to use most of them, if even half of them. So you have more for another batch at a later point. The reason I chose to show onions first is because this is actually the thing that I modified from my mother's recipe. Everything else is original Jewish classic chicken soup as per my oral tradition. Chicken is the next ingredient in chicken soup, and that surprises a lot of people, which bothers the hell out of me, because I hear a lot of people making chicken soup out of chicken stock, and chicken soup is chicken stock. It's just concentrated chicken soup. Like you make the stock yourself. That's the beauty of soup. You can get any kind of chicken. I personally am not a huge fan of dark meat, but dark meat does tend to add a lot more flavor. And if you have an opportunity to get something with bones and skin in it, you have a double benefit of, one, it being cheaper even though they give you more meat, but it'll also add a lot more flavor to it. Just leaving the skin and the bones on the chicken, you just throw it right in. Again, I'm going to show you how easy soup is to make. Next on the list is sweet potatoes. I happen to really like sweet potatoes, so I got 2, but I'm not going to be using both of these for this. This is like $1. The next ingredient is celery, which I actually did change one other thing from my mother's original recipe. My mother's recipe has celery root included in the recipe, but I don't really eat the celery root, and also most people I found don't really eat it. It does add a lot in terms of the flavor of the actual soup, and it actually gives it a really nice color, but you really don't have to use celery root. Use it if you want. It's all up to you. I just use celery. Salt and pepper already had in the house. And finally, carrots, which I also had in the house from the last time I made chicken soup, which was like 2 days ago. Not gonna lie, I'm working with sharp instruments now, and I took off my glasses because the shine was getting in the way of actually making the video, but I'm gonna put it back on because cutting my finger on camera is not something that I feel like doing. Another reason that I always hear people say that they don't want to cook is because they say it takes a long time. And that's another reason why I really like chicken soup. Because chicken soup can be made in, like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes once you get good at it. Okay, there is one peeled potato, and this potato goes directly in the pot. So the big question that I know people are going to ask is, okay, you showed me the ingredients, but how many of each ingredient am I supposed to put in the soup? And the answer is as many or as much as you want. It's pretty much up to you. I like to say that the pot should be maybe 1/3 full of contents before you actually add the water, but to be honest, it's 100% up to you. If you like more broth, you leave more room for water. If you like more contents, you put more contents in. And you will get a lot more flavor if you put more contents in. So it's entirely up to you. You do what you want. Soup making is a magical experience that should not be limited by rules. So we're gonna peel, I think the magic number for me is like 4 or 5, depending on the size of the actual carrot. I'm gonna do 4 for this one. You know what, we'll be naughty. 5. Now, again in the area of where you can cut corners in terms of time, once these are peeled, I'm actually gonna cut them up into like little slices, but to be honest, a lot of people just throw whole carrots into the soup. It doesn't matter all that much. You cut off the ends and you just throw the whole thing in, and then once you're scooping it out at a later point, you pull off the pieces that you want. The style is entirely up to you. It occurs to me that I never established the size of the pot that we're cooking for. This is the size of the pot that we're cooking for. It is, I don't know how big the size of the pot is. It's 8 quarts. 8 quarts is a lot more than a single person can eat in one sitting or over the course of several sittings, which is why I mention it, because this is going to make a lot of soup. This is going to make a lot of soup, and you can feed a lot of people with it, or you can just feed yourself with it for a long period of time. You can freeze it. You can put some of it in the fridge, some of it in the freezer. You can draw out a soup for a long period of time. Everyone should know how to make soup. I will say, for making soup, I've gotten much better at the rhythmic motion of cutting things. I feel like much more of like an accomplished chef because of it, but it doesn't mean that like in actuality I am. Okay, carrots down, sweet potato down, gonna add the celery now. This is a statement that should go without saying, but always wash your celery off before you use it. Bugs, dirt, all sorts of stuff, it's always on it. Wash everything off before you put it in the soup. You are putting it into water, but it is water that you're going to be drinking, so keep it clean. You drink soup, I guess you eat soup. This is a whole separate discussion. So again, not an exact science as to how many you use. I'm going to use 5. So you hold all 5 of them together, try to line up the tops and the bottoms, cut off all the tops, and cut off all the bottoms. Then you have just these left, and you can just throw these in. Technically, if your pot's big enough, just drop them right in, or you cut them up, which is what I'm going to do. Okay, now we're going to add the chicken, and again, in terms of adding the chicken, I think a lot of people think that this part is a little more complicated than it actually is. I was able to get an entire chicken for $6.45. I'm not going to put an entire chicken into this actual chicken soup, but I am going to put half of the chicken in there, which is more than enough to get a whole lot of flavor, and it has a skin and bones on it. And you can just drop it right in. Literally, you just drop it in, don't do anything to it. Simple as that. Easiest step. Something you guys should note is that soup often does need oils to cook it, but in the case of chicken soup, when you just drop a piece of chicken in there, the oils in the chicken, especially if you leave in the bones and the skin, all the oils that are in there, the fats and everything, is going to cook into the soup and actually make it taste a million times better. So honestly, you can use stripped down chicken to make the chicken soup, but the more fat, the better. That's an old Jewish saying. Last main ingredient is the onion. I'm going to use 2 onions because I like onions. I added onions to the recipe, and I think that they taste good in the soup. I think they add a nice flavor, and my mom can't tell me otherwise. This has been a subject of hot debate in my family. The way I like to do it is I just take the whole onion, cut off the skin, cut it in half, and drop it right in, and then you actually have the onion kind of fall apart as the soup ends up getting made, and everyone gets a little piece of onion they can kind of like munch on. I think it's a good way of doing it. Some people like to cut it up into quarters. Again, you do you. Okay, so that's all the main solid ingredients that need to go into the chicken soup, and now the only thing left to do is to season it. And I know that a lot of people make a big deal about salting soup. It's really not that hard, especially if you make in large quantities. I like to make sure the entire top of whatever I've made is completely coated in salt, because when you add a lot of water, it really does dilute it. You'd be surprised. So a lot of times for me, undersalting the soup is more of the issue than oversalting it, but in my opinion, if you hand somebody an undersalted soup, they can just add more salt. If you hand somebody an oversalted soup, you kind of screwed up. So I try to get like a light layer over the top of the soup. Yeah, that's probably good. And now pepper, same deal pretty much. Try to get a nice coating over the top. When you add the water, you can kind of get a better idea when it comes to pepper. If you can like really see a lot of pepper flakes, you might end up having a pretty spicy soup. But other than that, you just kind of like, coat the top, see how much you have. And again, if it looks like you have too much spice in the soup at a later point, you can just add more water than you expected to add and have it cook down. Soup is so easy to make, and nobody knows how to do it. Oh, I forgot to do it. I had a thing I wanted to do. I gotta get my sunglasses. So once you're done cutting everything up, this should be pretty much what it looks like. Now what's left is to add the water. And The water you can leave about an inch at the top of the pot, I would say, is probably a good amount, depending on how well you can actually control your stove. My stove is a piece of shit, so I really can't control the temperature at all. So the options are pretty much boiling out of control or pretty much not on. And that happens, oh God, the oven is actually on. My oven was actually on and leaking gas this whole time. That explains a lot. Okay, so the water's in there. I turned on the heat. It took me exactly 22 minutes to make that soup. When it comes to the length of time you actually have to cook the soup for, again, it depends on how high you're cooking it on. If you're cooking it to the point where it's boiling out and really going with a fast boil, I would say probably an hour until you can actually eat it. But the thing with chicken soup, and I can't stress this enough, is that the longer that you leave it to cook on a slow cook, the better it's going to be. That's a rule across cooking, I think, but when you cook something slowly, the more savory it's going to get. So a lot of times what I like to do is I like to actually put the soup on a very low boil and leave it going for 2-3 hours. Even better, that crock pot back there is an excellent way to make soup a day in advance. If you make soup in the crock pot on low a day in advance, by the time you get it at the end, oh my God. So I'm going to leave this to cook for like an hour and a half and then come back and check in on it and most likely have a bowl of soup because it's chicken soup and I'm going to have a bowl. All right, so the soup's been up now for about 2.5 hours, actually. I decided to leave it up for a little bit longer than I expected. It cooked out a little bit, but this is like fantastic. This is exactly what you want. You've got a bunch of those kind of oil pools. That's the fat from the chicken that cooked into the soup. And yeah, it cooked down perfectly. This is the perfect color. And it's only going to get better. So I'm going to put it up again once I take this bowl of soup, but I just want to take a bowl of soup just to sample it and actually get a taste. In case you haven't been convinced at this point as to how much I love soup, this is the bowl that I use for myself. It is a serving bowl because I love myself. We're going to try and get a little bit of everything so I can get a nice picture for Instagram later. I don't know how well I can angle this, but this is probably going to be the money shot for the cover photo. That is a perfect chicken soup. Well, the only thing left to do is try it, right? Perfect. I had a thought of making a joke ugh, that's disgusting, and pretending like I'd made some horrible soup, but one, this thing is too difficult to screw up. It's so easy to make, and two, I don't make bad soup, and I don't want you guys thinking that I make bad soup. I'm known for screwing up a lot of things, but one thing I'm not known for screwing up is soup. But anyways, that's it. Soup came out good. Tastes delicious. I'm gonna go enjoy it. Please, if you guys want to make your own soups, go and make them. Send them to me on Twitter. I would love to see your version of chicken soup. I want to spread this recipe of chicken soup to as many people as can actually use it because it's so easy to make soup and it's so much fun and it's just good and delicious and it warms you up and makes you happy on a sad day. After work, you just come home, make yourself some soup, have some soup ready from before work. If you make it in the crock pot, I'm telling you, the crock pot idea is going to change your freaking life. Buy yourself a crock pot. They're like $20. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I am not doing the 30-day challenge anymore. This is going to count as days 27 to 30. I know that technically counts as me failing the challenge, but I really did the challenge with the intention of just getting back into making videos, and it really did accomplish that goal. I just felt like I was spamming people's inboxes, and I wanted to get back to making longer, more edited and well-made videos. So that's what this is, and that's what I'm going to be doing from now on. Please stick around and check it out, and I hope that you enjoy it. If you'd like to follow me on any of my other social medias, all of that will be in the description down below, as well as my Discord. But for now, I'm going to go enjoy my chicken soup from my happy place. I am Zach. Now go away.
No matter where you roam, you will always have a home. You will never be alone, because where you go, I will go. No matter where you hide.
And it does that really well, but I don't do that in mine. But again, you can absolutely do that in your own version. But in my version, I just put a heck of a lot of celery in there. I fucked it up at the end, but I'm not going to re-record that because I already said it 16 times. Y'all can fuck yourselves. Fine, I'll re-record it.